Choosing the right typography can make or break your design. There's so many ways you can play with type to add character, evoke a certain mood, or achieve a specific goal. You can adjust the type size, kerning, tracking, leading, alignment, and color, just to name a few. The definition of typography is the art and technique of arranging type. Whether it's a poster, pages in a book, or the words you read on an app screen, it's all typography the designer used with intention to create an experience. Typography serves two main purposes. The first, it has to be legible. Can the user read it? And second, is how can you use typography to create a mood or design aesthetic to attract a specific audience? Learning the fundamental rules of type, so that you can learn how to break them later, will help you become a better designer. It takes practice and a little knowledge, which we'll go over in this video. But first, let's discuss some of the basics. Typeface versus font. What's the difference? Sometimes the terms typeface and fonts are used interchangeably, so it can be a little confusing. A typeface is a collection of fonts, while a font refers to a specific style or weight within a typeface family. For example, Helvetica is a typeface, but Helvetica Bold is a specific font within the Helvetica typeface family. There are three main categories of typefaces a font will fall under. These are serif, sans serif, and decorative or display typefaces. A serif is a small line or stroke attached to the end of a larger stroke. They're often referred to as the feet shown at the bottom of letters. Not all serifs are the same. You'll notice slight character variation from one serif typeface to another, and that's what makes them unique. Serif typefaces are more formal and traditional. They're often used editorial, such as in newspapers, magazines, and the body copy of books. An advantage of using serif typefaces is the level of customization. For example, most serif typefaces have an italics, while a sans serif does not. Some serif typefaces also have small caps and open type features such as ligatures. The term sans serif comes from the French word sans, meaning without. It's a typeface without serifs. These typefaces are more modern, bold, and tend to make good choices for large headlines. One of the most popular sans serif typefaces is Arial, which is a copycat of Helvetica. Here are a few examples of the most popular and well-known sans serif typefaces that have stood the test of time. Decorative and display typefaces are mostly used for titles and headlines. They're not recommended for large amounts of body copy due to issues with legibility. This is a large bucket of typefaces, including subcategories like slab serifs, scripts, blackletter, monospace, and more. They can also be some of the most fun to use and add flair to your design, but use them sparingly. Now let's dive into some of the technical elements of typography. There's an endless amount of nerdy type terms like cap height, baseline, ascender, descender, terminal, and more. But it's not really important to know these terms by heart to be a good designer. Instead, we'll stick to a few core elements, ones you'll need to know as you'll use them on a daily basis when designing any project. Leading refers to the space between lines. It's measured from one baseline to the next. Leading, as well as the following elements of typography, are important for legibility. The tighter the lines are, the more difficult it is to read. However, if there's too much space between the lines, it can also be too hard to read. It's a delicate balance and something you'll have to adjust for every font you use and how you're using it. Tracking refers to the letter spacing over a range of characters, usually one or multiple lines. Negative tracking makes your words appear tight and compact. Increased tracking will add more air or white space in between. When it comes to tracking, it also varies depending on the typeface you use and the context you're designing in. Super tight or wide tracking will impact legibility for the user, so be sure to adjust accordingly. In general, titles in all caps should use increased tracking. Lowercase and italics usually need to be tracked in tighter. While tracking refers to the spacing over a range of characters, kerning refers to the spacing between individual letters. Most of the time, you won't need to adjust kerning, especially for large blocks of body copy. Kerning mostly comes into play for 1 to 5 words in a title or a logo. The larger the type is, the more noticeable awkward spacing will be between individual letters. There's no mathematical formula. You'll have to train your eye to learn where there's too much or too little space between letters. In most design software, you can choose between optical and metric spacing. Metrics kerning uses kern pairs, which are included with most fonts. Kern pairs contain information about the spacing of specific pairs of letters. Optical kerning adjusts the spacing between adjacent characters based on their shapes. For paragraph alignment, you can choose from left align, right align, center align, and justified. In general, right aligned is rarely a good choice. Center aligned text can work with small amounts of copy or for a headline, but for the most part, you'll want to left align your body copy paragraphs. Left aligned text is easier on the eyes and best for legibility. We're used to reading a page of words from left to right. Most books are either left align or left align justified. Justified text is more traditional, often used in newspapers and magazines. For justified text, you'll need to adjust the tracking to compensate for the forced awkward spacing. An important tip when it comes to paragraph alignment is to think about the visual appearance of the rag. When you left align or center text, you'll notice a rag on the edge. Sometimes you'll need to manually adjust tracking or line breaks to create a better visual rag. One of the most important aspects of design and typography is hierarchy. No matter what you're designing, there needs to be a clear sense of hierarchy. If all type on a landing page is the same size, then a potential customer would have no idea what to read first and will exit out of the page immediately. By varying fonts, weights, size, and color, you can begin to walk your user through finding all the information they're looking for. There are 3 ways to think about hierarchy. First is the size of typography. Usually whatever is most important is the largest and takes up the most space. Then the secondary messages are smaller in size. Next, we can use color or tints to create hierarchy. Use bold colors for the most important message. Use more subdued colors or tints of the same color for secondary messages. You can also use spacing to create hierarchy. For example, your title can be large and bold, but also surrounded by plenty of white space to allow a user to see the message first. Think about how you can add contrast to your typography. For example, use a bright red for headlines and a dark brick red for body copy. This monochromatic color palette achieves contrast as well as good hierarchy. Another way to think about contrast with typography is to vary weight size. As an exercise, try sticking to one font family and pairing various weights together. For one pairing, use bold or light for headlines and regular for body copy. See how many combinations you can create with all the styles in one typeface family. You can also achieve contrast by varying point sizes. Create a pairing with the same font but with different sizes. Try varying your use of all caps versus upper and lowercase. You'll want to keep your main body copy in upper and lowercase. A full paragraph of all caps is hard to read on the eyes, but maybe as a stylistic choice, you decide to use all caps for your header. Now let's go over some tips for how to choose fonts. The first tip to remember when choosing fonts is to avoid trends. Choose classic typefaces that stand the test of time. I'll leave a link down below to a list of 25 classic fonts that will last your whole design career. You really can't go wrong with any of the fonts on that list. Tip 2 is to start by narrowing down to a typeface category. Think about choosing fonts as choosing an outfit for an occasion. Is this event formal or casual? This will help you narrow down to a type category. If you're designing a landing page for Pepsi, you'll probably want to look at modern sans serif typefaces to go with their bold logo. If you're designing a poster for a serious drama film, maybe you'll want a strong yet elegant serif for the title. Typography gives character to your design, so choose wisely. Tip 3. Limit type pairings to 2 or 3 max. Try not to use too many typefaces on one design project. The more typefaces you use, the harder it is to read or distinguish hierarchy. As a rule, try to stick to 2 or 3 typefaces at the most. When pairing multiple typefaces, be sure to choose 2 distinctly different fonts. For example, don't use 2 sans serifs that look nearly identical. Instead, pair a serif or other decorative font with a sans serif to achieve a good balance. Tip 4. Practice designing with free fonts. There are so many fonts out there. Have fun and play around with some. I'll leave a link to a video where you can watch my creative process unfold as I play around with 10 different free fonts. So now that you have all this newfound knowledge of typography, how can you improve your typography skills? Well, there's really no way around it but to practice. Essentially, design is type plus image. But within these 2 elements, there's an endless amount of design possibilities. If you're new to design and typography, try experimenting with type-only exercises on your own. Don't think about color, photography, illustration, or any other design elements yet. Start with a blank white canvas in your favorite design software. Add small blocks of black type one at a time. Start with one typeface only. Add a title, add a subtitle, and body copy. Try to create at least 10 different layout options by using some of the tips you learned from this video. It might be tough at first, but soon you'll realize how many possibilities there are when designing with type. If you found this video on typography tips helpful, give it a like, subscribe, and leave a comment below and let me know what was something new you learned about typography. I'll also link to other design videos I've created on this channel.